Our guest all morning is our friend Erica Kurcsak from Maranatha Bible Church and the ministry Grace and Beauty, and a whole long list of other areas of expertise that she has, and we love her. So we got a phone call already, which we love it. John, my guy John from Cleveland. Welcome, brother. What's your question today?
Hey, good morning, Brian. Thanks for taking my call, sir.
You bet.
So my question to your guest, my wife and I, we also homeschool, and we have 7 children, so we have multiple children, obviously, different
God bless
ages.
you.
Yes, sir. Well, we've been homeschooling for over 20 years, and my question is, how does your guest feel? I guess it's twofold. How does she feel about homeschooling multiple children? And then on top of that, does she find herself homeschooling differently in her later years than she did when she first started? Because this notion about being a parent when you're early, you parent differently maybe than when you become older. So
Totally different.
What does that look like? Yeah. What does that look like for your guests?
Okay. Thank you, Erica.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. I think one of the most challenging things about homeschooling is trying to do multiple grades. The fact that I have a first grader, third grader, fifth grader, seventh grader, you really have to figure out how to coordinate the scheduling on that. But also then, like, I'm just constantly changing gears. So between a first grader and a seventh grader, there's a lot of difference in how you're teaching and what you're teaching. So I would say that's a huge challenge. The curriculum that we use, once you hit fourth grade, you can kind of do, it's called a family learning cycle. So certain subjects you can combine all together. And obviously the more advanced kids have more work than the younger kids. But that's helped a ton to be able to combine some of those subjects.
Someone's going to ask what you use, so you might as well just say it. Can you say it?
Yeah, we use My Father's World curriculum. Mm-hmm.
My Father's World curriculum. There it is. And Lauren's about to look it up so people that ask for it can have it. Thanks, Lauren.
It's a Christian-based curriculum that's very missions-minded, which fits well with our family. So, and then what was the second part of that question?
Do you find yourself teaching, like changing as the kids get older, how you approach it?
Sure.
Just based on experience?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my oldest is in 7th grade, and then the next one's 5th grade. So I would say with them, I was very tied to the curriculum. Like, we have to do this, we have to check all the boxes, we have to get everything done that's supposed to be done. I mean, as a homeschool mom, you feel responsible for their education, so it feels like a big task. But I did not realize with one of my children that they were falling behind in a certain subject because I was just trying to check all the boxes. And we got to a certain point that I was like, this is laborious. We're both frustrated here. This isn't working because they didn't have the basics that they needed. And so we actually went backwards, which was I'm a rule follower, a box checker. And so it was a big thing for me to go backwards and to say, we're going to go back and we're going to review some of these things. And it was the best thing that we did. It really helped our relationship because there was a lot of conflict in trying to stay on schedule. So I would say that was a turning point for me to realize, I can change this up, and actually went outside of the curriculum, which was another first for me, to find a different source, a different resource that would work better for that child's learning styles. Mm-hmm. So I think I've gotten more flexible in being willing to change things up, I guess, as I've gone along.
It's 6:32. Again, it's follow-up Friday. You can set the topic. John had a great question for our guest, Erica Kurcsak, who's with us all day. Well, not all day. Sorry. Just during the show.
You have to stay here. We're actually going to put you to work.
440-546-2255. What I'd actually like to do is, since we started down the homeschool road, I want to stick with that for a few minutes, because you and I have had great discussions with our spouses together, talking about schooling choice in this matter, where you're not somebody who thinks everybody must homeschool.
Right.
And so when I encounter someone like that, we got to talk about how you know. Because so many families, whether it's grandparents or parents, debate these choices, right? And I know our families have discussed this at length, and I loved the conversation. So how would you say, like, what's your advice for families on how to know if homeschooling is right for you? How do you know?
I think the the starting place should always be prayer, which might sound cliche, but honestly, God cares about our children's education more than we do. And I also think that along with that prayer, you need to be kind of thinking through, like, what's my priority here, is in terms of what my goals are for my children. There are some people who, their goal is prestigious higher education for their children, and a lot of times people think that can be accomplished much better through homeschooling. Or if you have goals, I want all Christian parents obviously want their kids to be godly, and what's the best way for me to accomplish that with my children? So thinking through as you're praying about it, like what are my future goals for my children, I think is an important place to start.
Can I ask what you and your husband had as a goal? You don't have to share that, but
Oh, sure. I don't have any specific goals for my kids to go to prestigious universities. If they want to go to higher education, great. If they don't, and they feel like they're pursuing what God wants for them, then that's what I want as well. So I think our goal has always been to set a solid biblical foundation for them, and allow that to be the guideline for their lives. And so if I don't really care. I mean, we have our kids tested, state testing at the end of every year, but I don't really care a whole lot about the grades. And I don't know, that might be a little bit anti-homeschool, but for me, I care about the opportunities that I have as their teacher, essentially, to teach them life skills and how do you get along with your siblings, and what do you do when you're trying to get your math homework done and this person is being really annoying, and like those kinds of like everyday life things, and how do I prepare them for interacting in the future, in the workplace or in ministry or whatever that might be.
Well, and this is why we get along so well, because even though Sarah and I have made a different choice with our kids for public school at this phase of their lives, we have the same goal. Mm-hmm. But we're just accomplishing it differently.
Yeah.
So now, to me, the bigger question, because this is what Sarah encountered, because I was working full-time and she was working full-time as a mom for a long season. How do you know if it's right for you as a mom? Let's just say mom, even though we know it could be dad. But I think some people are not wired to do it effectively. Is that fair to say?
I think that's fair to say, but I always feel like when people are like, oh, I could never do what you're doing, there's the majority of days I don't feel like I can do what I'm doing. Like I don't
I guess that's true for all of us. Yeah.
I think this is the choice we made, and so I don't think necessarily like is this the right thing or is this not the right thing? I mean, there's certain days where I do feel that way, but I mean, for the most part, it's like this is the choice we made. This is what we feel like is best for our children in this particular stage, and so I don't know. I don't really think a whole lot about am I the right person to do this, or is this the right thing for me? I mean, that being said, there are some people that your relationship might be better with your kids if you were not homeschooling with them, and in that case, then I think you need to be aware of that. So I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it does, and that's again, I think the beauty of how you approach this, because when Sarah started homeschooling, our oldest daughter was homeschooled through 4th grade, and then we transitioned. We came to Ohio to public school. And a lot of it was just, Sarah was like, I just don't think this is right for me. And she had a number of reasons for that. But I think there's, how it is in various areas of life, especially for Christians, there's a lot of pressure on people. Mm-hmm. Like there's a pressure, you have to breastfeed or you're the worst mom ever. There's that pressure. Mm-hmm. And I think if you start homeschooling, and you can't stop.
Right.
Because there's something wrong with you if you started it. Wow, you can't take it? Loser?
Yeah, like I failed at this. It's not going well. And so I have to stop.
What's your thought on that attitude?
On
either the pressure on someone to continue homeschooling, whether they feel like it's right or not, or feeling like they're terrible because they made a different choice. Like what do we do with that church culture phenomena?
Yeah. Well, when we started homeschooling, we said it was going to be a year by year, child by child basis. And rather than saying, hard and fast, this is what we're doing for the rest of time. If this isn't working for our children, and then we need to figure out what else God wants us to be doing in terms of their education. So, and I think that would be true whether they're in a private school or a public school, that you should always feel the freedom to evaluate whether or not this is right for your child, based on their behavior, the way they're receiving it, the way that they're learning. Maybe they have special learning needs that the school that they're at isn't meeting, and so maybe you think that you can do that better at home. Or vice versa. Maybe your child has specific learning needs and you feel like you're not equipped to do that. And there's a lot of people in the public schools who are equipped for that. So why would I keep them at home if there's something else they could be benefiting from and learning in a better way, I guess, for their particular style? So trying to keep open-minded about it.
It sounds like we should trust that parents are doing what's best for their kids and leave them alone.
Yeah.
Or is it the Brian version?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I can't say that what I've chosen to do is what's right for everyone, because I think that's absolutely false. I think the most important thing is, am I doing what God wants me to do for my children? And I mean, you can sit around and debate that all day long, but at the end of the day, whether they're in homeschool, private school, public school, I mean, I've seen kids go through all three and love the Lord. And I've seen kids go through all three and walk away from their faith. Yep. So I don't think that the education itself is what makes or breaks a child's spirituality or their future walk with the Lord. There's something else. There's something else to it,
Yeah, we don't believe our kids can inherit faith from us. And yet sometimes we act like they can. And we wish that it's possible. You're agreeing with that?
Yeah, I wish they could.
Oh, yeah.
That would be nice.
Like we kind of earnestly plan for that.
Yeah.
Like if we just do the right things. I have this back of my mind, think if I just do it right, the kids will all be saved. But that's not a spiritual fact at all.
No.
Nope.
That's not how salvation works. And so it is that dilemma parents have to deal with. It's that I could do all the right things and do my best, and my child still may not accept an invitation to follow Jesus. It's a tough reality. And now, Lauren, you grew up in private school.
Yeah.
And so obviously, since you went in private Christian school, your children will be going to private Christian school because that's the best choice, right?
No, our plan is to send our kids to public school. And here's my reasoning for it. I felt very unprepared for the real world coming out of private school. And I want to be able to have the hard conversations with my kids of the things they experience, hear about at school. I want to have those conversations with them at home when they're still under my care. And I feel very prepared and equipped to have those conversations. I'm not shy about those conversations. And so I know it's right for me and my husband to do that. Because I want them to experience the real world. I want them to see what other people look like, act like, sound like, what do other people believe and say. And here's why we believe what we do. And yeah, I just think that's best for us. I think that's best coming from both me and my husband's education experience. We both come from private schools, different types, but private schools. And we think public school is going to be the best way forward for our family.
So in some Christian circles, you two probably couldn't be friends. Because you would be nice to each other, but you would be quietly going, wow, she doesn't know what she's doing. I can't believe she's doing that with her children.
Some people would do that, yeah.
So how can you two be friends when your philosophy on schooling for your kids is so different?
Well, I think
I love your annoyed face. I have to ask this because people...
I think the baseline is I trust that Erica's doing the best that she's doing for her family. And she's doing what is best for her family and what God has asked her to do. And she has to trust the same for me.
And she does.
And that's what friendship is that you trust that your friend is doing what God's asked them to do. One of my closest friends is a homeschool mom. We have kids the same age. She knows I'm not doing that. First of all, I am not wired for that. But also, that's not what I think is best for our family. And she has no ill will towards me. I support her in her homeschooling. Like, wow, look at you and all your folders. That's so great. I could never do that. I could never do that.
You should see Erica's setup. It is so
exactly.
cool for her kids. It is the coolest thing.
Yeah, you got to have the setup. It's got to be all right. And that's just like not me.
It's interesting, Lauren, as you're as you're explaining your reasons for sending them to public school, I feel like I resonate with those same things, that I want my kids to be prepared for the real world, and I want to have those conversations with them when things come up. I want to have the conversations with them while they still want to listen to me, like while they're still young enough to think that I know what I'm talking
you're
about.
So cool. Yeah.
At some point, they probably won't think that anymore.
Yes.
And so let's have those conversations now so that when they're exposed to things, whether it's playing with the neighbors or something that they saw on a show or whatever, like, let's have those conversations and let's talk about it. And you can talk about anything. We can talk about whatever you want to in this family and prepare them, because the reality is they're going to face it.
Yep.
This is the world we live in, and we can't hide from the things that they have to walk through. So let's make it a conversation that we can have in the home.
Yep.
So
yeah, I feel like my experience at Christian school, and this is my experience at my specific school, was anyone who wasn't a part of this school, anyone who wasn't a Christian was so othered, and I don't want that experience for my children, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that non-Christians are othered from me, and so I don't want that experience for my kids.
Now, I, of course, just to spice it up a little bit, I serve on the board at Summit Christian School. And so I certainly believe there's this very specific and powerful place for Christian education.
Yeah.
Now, just because we don't have anyone here right now that has a child in private Christian education, we can't necessarily accurately portray that perspective. But we're not frowning upon that choice. You're talking about your experience.
Yes.
And for some people, that's the best choice for their family, and it works perfectly. Our good
every
friend
family's
Scott
different.
Lessing, his kids went through private Christian school.
Yeah, every family's different.
And that's
every
okay.
kid is different, and you have to be okay with changing, and maybe your kids have to go to different schools.
So what I want to do is this. When we'll take a quick break and come back, because somehow you two have achieved this mindset that is not competitive, and you're not looking down your nose at each other, where this is actually a very intense thing for Christian families. Like, there's people who make their personal choice and think everybody else is the world's biggest idiot. And they hate their kids and they want them all to, like, not be saved or something. So we got to figure out how to have your mindsets spread around the church a bit. Our guest all morning, Erica Kurcsak from Maranatha Bible Church. We're chatting with her. Yes, very good.
Thanks.
She's got a lot of areas of expertise, in my opinion.
Yes.
She would deny
all of them,
that.
really.
Yeah, all the things.
Yeah.
And so we're talking now about, she's a homeschool mom, and her and Lauren are making different choices for their kids of similar ages, and we made a different choice for our kids of similar ages in some respects. We're trying to figure out how we can have more unity in the church in this area. In my experience, there's a lot of Christian families who really look down upon each other for their choices of education. Has that been your experience, Erica?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Lauren? Yeah? You're kind of new in that area.
Yeah,
I
I'm a little
suppose,
bit new in that area to experience the judgment of it, but we'll see.
But you two being perfectly okay with each other's choices, one public school, one homeschool, is very rare. Why is that a thing, and how can we help this happen more other places?
I don't know. I'm not certain why it's a thing. Maybe it's we feel a little bit anxious or uncertain about the decision we're making, so we kind of cling to it and then shame all the others.
Oh, wow.
Because it's like you're not really certain. There's so many options, so you're not exactly certain if yours is the right decision, so you have to kind of bear down and make it the right decision.
Yeah, I always thought that kind of like smugness of I made the best decision and I can't believe you're doing that came out of a place of pride, but you're saying it could be out of anxiety.
Or uncertainty, yeah.
Because I suppose, isn't that true about all of us? Like, ooh, did I do the right thing? I don't know.
Yeah.
I still don't know.
I mean, like Erica said, there's kids from all different versions of schooling that follow Jesus and all different versions of schooling that don't.
How do you process that?
Well, I feel like as parents, we have a fierce love for our children. There's something different when it comes to our kids and our relationship with our kids. So I think that plays into it too. And I think Lauren really is onto something there, that there's this element of like, I am trying to do what's best for my kids. So I don't want you to judge me for what I think is best for my kids. So instead, I'm going to judge you.
Put the wall up before they can come for me. Yeah.
Wow.
But honestly, there are people that really firmly feel in their hearts, they have a conviction from the Lord of what to do for their children. And I think sometimes when you have a very strong conviction about something, it's hard to imagine that somebody could have a different conviction. It's just because the Lord has convinced me of this so much, I don't see how everybody else couldn't have that same mindset.
I think something we also don't think about or talk about much is that God builds people with different strengths and abilities and giftings for different places. If every Christian was a homeschool family, who's like out in the world with people who are non-Christians? Or if every Christian family was in Christian schools, who is out in the public schools? And then it's the reverse. If every family is a public school family, where is like our Christian teaching for our kids too? I think God builds families, not just people, but people and families for different things and different types of service and different types of ministry. And he builds their skills, their personalities, their different bents for different things.
Well, and this is kind of reminiscent of the when you talk about the three types of things we believe in, the areas of belief, whether it's essential or not. What are they again? There's
dogma, doctrine, and opinion.
And I think we sometimes forget that some of these choices fall into those similar categories.
Yeah.
Like there's no biblical mandate for Christian education or homeschooling or public school.
Mm-hmm.
So what are the biblical principles that guide us in making these decisions for our families?
Well, there is a biblical principle to train our children,
Right.
Deuteronomy 6, and when you sit, when you rise, when you go about the way. So I think a lot of homeschool families feel like that's their way of fulfilling the Deuteronomy 6 calling for parents to train their children. So I think that where we fall short in that, as if I put myself in the homeschool camp, it is expecting that that's the only way that someone could follow that mandate for Deuteronomy 6. I think you can absolutely do that with your children if they're in public school or if they're in private school. It's what you're doing in the home that matters in terms of training your children. So I think sometimes we put those biblical mandates in a box, like it has to look this way.
That's good. Are you there too?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to look the same for everybody.
And I hope this helps somebody listening, because it's such it makes me feel so sad. I don't get angry, but I feel sad when families do this to each other. We really ought to just support each other the best we can and trust that, again, everyone's doing the best they can. I mean, it's a hard thing to think of, but even people who grow up in really dysfunctional families, I still believe that the dysfunctional parents are doing the best they can.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're not waking up today, how could I mess up my kid?
Right. And how are they parented? What family background are they coming from? They're likely doing better than they had. They're functioning out of what they know.
Well, and a lot of our decisions, like Lauren's, are based on, like a reaction to what you experienced as a kid. I mean, I know people who had a horrible homeschool experience that are my age now, and so they're sending their kids to public school because they don't want them to have that experience, and vice versa. People that had a horrible public school experience and they want to homeschool their kids. So I think sometimes that plays into the decision too. You're reacting to whatever experience you had when you were growing up.
Thanks for watching. Do you need more Ron in your life? Subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new video.